Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Our friends over at SPECULATIVE are lending us another article, this one titled Just Imagine, written a little while back in September of 2019 by Mark Carver on the subject of heaven. Carver writes, 2 weekends ago, I went to Orlando with my wife and 3 kids on our annual Florida pilgrimage. We usually visit different theme parks during our trips, and this year we went to Disney's Animal Kingdom and Universal Studios' Islands of Adventure. The heat was oppressive, the lines were short, and much water and ice cream was consumed. It was a great trip, capped off by a visit to the beach before heading home. There are plenty of worlds to visit within these parks, both real and imagined, but the highlights are the alien world of Pandora at Animal Kingdom and the wizarding world of Harry Potter at Islands of Adventure. I'm a sci-fi guy, so Pandora is more exciting for me, but my wife was eager to try the new Hagrid's motorbike ride with our son, and they said it was well worth the 1-hour wait time. Apparently, this is where all of the thrill seekers went because the lines for the other rides were just 10 minutes, but I wasn't complaining. If you've ever been to these parks or similar recreated worlds, it can be a truly magical feeling, seeing places and things that only existed in your mind or on the big screen. I've never been to New Zealand, but I imagine that the Lord of the Rings tour would beat anything that a theme park can produce. Yet walking among glowing alien plants or weaving your way through the halls of Hogwarts has a transportive effect that stimulates your senses along with your imagination. Countless fictional worlds exist only on paper, and many would not translate well into theme park experiences. Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn books take place in an immersive world, but making rides and attractions out of swallowing vials of metal flakes suspended in alcohol would be a difficult task. Even the world of Westeros from the Game of Thrones books and TV shows seems too big for a theme park, though I wouldn't be surprised if one was already in development. There is one world which so far exists only on paper but is far from fiction. The new heavens and the new earth that will endure for eternity after Jesus returns. This world will be the home of God's children, not a heavenly paradise in the clouds. There are numerous interpretations of what is depicted in Scripture, but since we love to use our imagination, let us consider what this new world would look and feel like. What does the Bible say about our eternal home? Isaiah 65:17 and Revelation 21:1-5 tells us that everything will be new, and that the former things have passed away. All pain and sorrow will be forgotten, and God will be the joy of our existence. We don't know if this means we won't know one another in eternity, but there will be no memory of past hurts or sins. Every moment will be pure joy in the presence of God. What will this new world look like? The book of Revelation indicates that there is no more sea, chapter 21, verse 1, and that believers will dwell in a massive city made of gold and jewels, chapter 21, verses 10-21, and that there is no more sun or moon, chapter 21, verse 23. This seems to be in contrast with how God's creation was originally set up, with man and woman living in a garden to cultivate. It seems like a poor use of the world's space to corral everyone into a city, especially with no more sea. But of course, if that is how God designs it, that is without question the absolutely best eternity possible. The most important thing is that we will be with God, physically and spiritually. Revelation 21, verse 22 tells us that there is no more temple because God is the temple. Regardless of how the new world looks, the best part will be enjoying the presence of God in its fullest sense. That's something that no depth of imagination can ever approach, and we will just have to wait until that glorious day comes. A really interesting article, and the thing I most appreciate about it is the thought that it stimulates in me. I could go back through it and say, yeah, I'm on board with that, and other things I might say, well, maybe, I'm not sure if I agree, depends on what you mean by this point, and da-da-da-da-da. But I love the springboard for this article. It actually provided a springboard over at SPECULATIVEFaith.com itself, E. Stephen Burnett followed up with an article I highly recommend you check out called Heaven Will Be the Happiest Place on Earth, in which he responds to some of what Carver wrote and adds a bunch more of his reflections based on Scripture, speculating on what heaven will be like. And I've found this to be a valuable pursuit in recent years. I'm going through the midlife 40-something thing of thinking about death and processing mortality and thinking about both the intermediate state after death and then also the eternal state when we have our resurrection bodies. And a book that I've found very valuable that I can't help but wonder if Burnett read before writing his article is called Heaven, appropriately, by Randy Alcorn. It's been out for a while. I can't vouch for the whole book. I'm less than, I think, halfway through it still, and there are still a few side issues that Alcorn and I would disagree on, but the core of what he's talking about is not dependent upon those side issues and is really, really valuable, and basically just promotes the idea of exploring the idea of heaven with a biblically informed imagination, and realizing that there is actually a ton that the Bible does say about heaven, that it's not this ethereal thing that we can only kind of like vaguely imagine, but there's actually a lot that the Bible does say, and that we should, as I think about it, I think the geek imagination is so valuable to us as we are thinking about eternity. But we want to apply kind of the sci-fi part of our imagination rather than the fantasy part. In other words, we want to take what's real and already established as true and then use what we might call a sanctified imagination to speculate and try to fill in the gaps, rather than a fantasy imagination that just says, hey, let's just think of something wild, And I think that having the approach of a science fiction imagination that's sanctified by what the Bible tells us can really give us some concrete things that we can really look forward to as we think about what we were made for, what we were meant for, and what is promised for us. And so I want to encourage you to have a sanctified geek imagination and explore all that the Bible has to say about our destiny, what we were made for. In the meantime, you can find these articles on heaven and lots of other great content over at SPECULATIVEFaith.com. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a ton going on here at Spirit Blade Productions and Christian Geek Central, including our in-depth Bible study for geeks, movie, game, and other entertainment reviews or commentary, live streams, Christian geek news, original audio dramas, and tons more. And on top of all that, you can become a Spirit Blade insider with an influential voice and get access to exclusive content and rewards. It's your involvement as a patron that will keep all of this going and growing. So I want to thank you for your consideration in that. For more information, please check out our Patreon page through the link below at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Thanks for listening.